here at the Omni Hotel in Dallas at SEC Football Media Days. We get to say hello to Josh Pate, host of the very popular Late Kick, Dallas, Texas, for SEC Media Days.
Yeah, sounds like a ZZ Top song.
Yeah.
We're out here and never necessarily thought I'd see this event emanate from the Big D, but we're here. You know, I didn't literally know until last night Dallas is the third biggest city in Texas. Do you realize that? San Antonio's bigger than Dallas in terms of population. Makes no sense to me.
And Dallas is huge, but it's kind of different because you have all these different parts.
I guess.
Right to the city.
I pride myself on knowing that kind of stuff, and I did not know that. I knew Houston was the biggest, but San Antonio more populated. It's crowded here today. It's crowded here this week.
Yep. It's Alabama, Texas Day. Tennessee was here yesterday. You were on campus. We talked to you not long after you made the visit during your tour that you were doing, your speaker series, right? Talking to Josh Heupel. Anything stood out to you from yesterday, or is more of your takeaway from the Knoxville visit what you were able to see on hand, trying to think about what the Vols might be this upcoming year?
Yeah, way more from the Knoxville visit. General rule of thumb is the more dressed up a guy is, the less information you're going to get out of him. And so he was relaxed, pull over on. I mean, we got a good look in the program, got to see some summer workouts going on. So that was a good visit. I think the biggest thing that I got from that is how much more they probably believe in their defensive staff than the nation would. The nation can't name any of defensive coordinators and defensive coaches at Tennessee. Nation probably doesn't know a whole lot of defensive players over there either. Doesn't matter because anonymous players become names every year in this sport. That's the first thing. The second thing was the physical ability of Nico was almost an afterthought. That's the box that's checked already. No one questions that around there. It was the intangible stuff. The stuff that is the difference between winning 8 and 10 games, that stuff they strongly believe in with him, which is rare because he's not been a full-time starter yet in this league. And there's a lot of baptism by fire that has to happen. No easy way around that. You just got to go through it. But when you enter an expanded playoff era, you don't look at the schedule the same way. You don't look at it and say, well, unless we can beat one of Georgia or Bama, we're done. You want to. You want to beat them both. You could also lose to both of them and make a playoff. So at this point, when I look at them, I don't just ask the normal question of can they win the SEC. I'll ask that, but I also ask, if they just sneak in as a 10 seed, what kind of damage does a Josh Heupel offense stand the potential to do in the postseason? And so there's kind of a double feature way I look at them now.
Josh Pate is with us, Late Kick here at SEC Football Media Days. Jason Swain with us back in Knoxville. He's at Frazier's Carpet One. So how many teams are in that kind of category? I think you've called Tennessee a wild card team. How many wild cards would you say are here in the SEC going into the season because the conversation has changed around the expanded playoff?
I think it's 3 of them off the top of my head. I think Oklahoma certainly fits that description because everyone, me included, thinks they'll probably have subpar offensive line play this year. Well, if they don't, if they have B-level offensive line play, that's 3 top 10 recruiting classes built into that roster, 3 straight top 10 portal classes built into that roster. They came off a double-digit win season last year. If they're not bad on the offensive line, then all of a sudden a whole world of opportunity opens up. It's why I actually think Tennessee's game week 4 over there in Norman is the most overlooked national game of the year. I think it's a huge game. One way or another, someone's coming out of that one being talked about a lot different. And Tennessee comes out of that one, everybody starts looking down the road. Wow, we just won a big road game. It's been shaky with Heupel on the road. You go in there, Oklahoma's first SEC game, period, much less just home game, and you win in that environment. Now, defense is not a question for Oklahoma, so if you go in there and get that done, then all of a sudden you're off to the races. If they beat Tennessee, they go to Auburn the very next week. They'll probably be a small favorite at Auburn. If they were to go Tennessee-Auburn, boom, boom, couple of wins, all of a sudden they're 5-0 or 6-0, and they're halfway through the season, and you're looking and you're saying, oh, wait, we have to take them seriously now. I would say Missouri is the third one for different reasons. Missouri probably less major questions. I just find it interesting that all of a sudden Missouri lost some really good players. They lost some really good coaches, and folks are blindly believing in them. I mean, I think most of the folks who are going to vote them top 10, top 15 couldn't tell you a whole lot about the roster, which means they're putting Missouri in the same category they put Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, etc. And that is we just blindly trust that they'll reload. Well, Missouri's never been thought of that way. Missouri's never recruited that way. You got to be top 5 every year in terms of talent acquisition to be thought of that way. So are they really that? And if they're not, what about their schedule is built to expose them? Because there's a very easy path to 10 wins with them, right back in the same contention they were last year, so that also gets them in a playoff. If they do nothing more than they did last year, they're in the playoff.
This is the time of year, Josh, where we kind of overhype teams and also undersell some teams as well. What team you think is probably overhyped a little bit too much?
Well, first off, Swain, I don't like listening to you and not being able to look at your gorgeous face.
I'm sorry, man.
So I miss you, and we all miss you. I think LSU. Yeah. No one has sold me yet that I'm overly sold on the staff changes they made. I love the dudes they hired. They didn't bring players with them. And then they didn't go get any of them that are game changers out of the portal. And the thing about it is it ain't because they didn't try. They just whiffed. They weren't able to land them. Oklahoma beat them for Dom Williams. That's a very high-profile example. That's not the only example, though. So, those guys may have been hired. They don't get to play. So that win total's 9.5. Like, LSU is in the exact same boat Tennessee and Alabama and Missouri are. I already cashed – well, I didn't cash a ticket. I already placed a ticket on that under. I've got a hard time seeing LSU a double-digit win team this year.
How's that going to be received in Baton Rouge, by the way, if that's how it goes?
Very poorly. And I was on Baton Rouge radio the other day, and the host started doing nothing more than echoing the sentiment around there. And to be fair, he said, now that we saw the defense struggle last year and they didn't really make tons of moves in personnel, I mean, should we temper expectation? No, you shouldn't temper expectation. It's LSU. You don't temper expectation. You should have high expectation every year. Thing about it is, if you put 100,000+ in your stadium every Saturday, if you give everything they ask you to give, you deserve to have sky-high expectation. There's nothing that limits LSU except LSU. So they sucked defensively last year. It was inexcusable to have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and to lose 3 games at LSU because of all things defense let you down. That's a crazy concept for anyone who knows what LSU is. So we've seen poor performing teams revamp themselves in the span of one spring summer. If you can't do it, that's on you. But no, you shouldn't lower your expectation one bit if you're an LSU fan.
We're in the 12-team playoff era, as you've mentioned. Have you adapted? How are your summer conversations now? I know you love all that college football has been. College football is changing.
Yeah, it's changing. No, I haven't adapted. I'll adapt. I don't like it. I have adapted. The one thing that I got in a little, not a debate, but I got in a pretty fiery conversation the other day with someone. They brought me on. This is a friend of mine, and they know my stance, and they are anti my stance. They love expansion. They'd expand it more if they could. And they said, so you're telling me that you're not going to be watching the expanded playoff? I said, no, I've never said that. Of course I'll watch it. And they said, well, I mean, are you telling me that you don't think there'll be more games with playoff meaning? And I said, no, mathematically, it's a certainty there'll be more of that. I just have looked at it the entire time, and will continue to look at it and say, I'm not so sure that I'm willing to accept the trade-off. The trade-off is we're going to put artificial emphasis on Iowa State versus Texas Tech because the winner may go to the Big 12 championship game and get themselves a 4 seed. I'm not willing to trade that off and the exchange be Ohio State and Michigan are about to play, and everyone knows no matter what happens, they'll both be in the playoff. Or Bama and Tennessee, or Georgia, Texas. Those are the teams actually capable of winning the whole thing. So we've removed the urgency from the games featuring the real teams that could win the whole thing, and we've artificially placed what I guess you want to call urgency on games featuring teams you know good and well will get bounced in round 1 and round 2. That's never made sense to me. But if everyone wants to close their eyes and pretend like all playoff spots are created equal, then I don't get it, but I guess I have to live with it.
Swain, you've been in the category of, hey, the more teams, the more games, whatever the merrier, right?
I mean, it's more games to talk about, but I do understand what Josh is talking about. I mean, if you already know the conclusion, and it's easier to know the conclusion in football than it is with NCAA basketball because you can have upsets. You know, Kentucky, they get beat every year in the first round. Football's a little bit harder, so I get where Josh is coming from. I'm okay with 12, maybe 16. I think past 16, I'm a no-go.
Never mind, Swain. I don't want to look at you right now. I'm happy just hearing the voice. No, so here's the thing, though. Everyone's got their opinion on this. Let me float you a scenario.
Okay.
Because this is one I cannot shake. So some of these rivalry games are still played at the end of the year, but we did away with divisions. So Ohio State and Michigan, still going to be played last Saturday of the year. There's going to be a world, it could be this year. It would have been the last 3 years where no matter the outcome this Saturday, they're going to play again 6 days later. And it's highly likely, no matter the outcome of that, they'll both be in the playoff with a pretty decent chance to play a third time. Here's my problem. That game, Ohio State-Michigan, the rivalry game, has been around since before any of us were ever thought of. Conference championship games haven't. Playoff is even more recent. But the emphasis is placed disproportionately on the man-made recent things like the conference title game and the playoff. And someone would have you believe, well, if you lose the rivalry game, that's okay. You'll get them again 6 days later in a bigger one. And, hey, if it doesn't go your way there, don't worry. You may get them again in a really, really big one. And I'm like, I invert that in my mind. If you lose that rivalry game that's been around since the dawn of creation, basically, that's the game. That's it. And then if you win your conference title game, okay, that's wonderful. They give you a man-made trophy, and you go to the playoff, and you're winning a man-made playoff. But that rivalry game, man, how does it impact the importance on that thing when there's this giant safety net 5 feet under you to where you know if I fall, it's not going to hurt at all. I don't want to fall, but if I fall, oh, well, I'll get them 6 days later.
Hold on now, Josh. I'm on Twitter here. I see late kick Josh, and every Saturday I have an alert for you, and I see you in the cornfield looking up and you counting down the Saturdays that we get college football. I want more college football. You want more college football, but we don't want to be too watered down. We don't want to be too watered down.
That's true. That's true. So,
okay.
Swain, open that wallet. I know your wallet's deeper than most. Open your wallet. You see a $20 bill in there.
Okay.
Of course, you would love more of those $20 bills, right? We'd all love more money.
Yeah.
However, are we for the U.S. Reserve just endlessly printing money? We are not, because that devalues the money we already have in our wallet. The value of scarcity is that there's only a finite amount of the thing. Therefore, that thing has its value. And then someone could come along and say, hey, if you like this, how about having more of this? It's human nature to say absolutely. It's just at some point you got to put that foot on the brake a little bit and say, might we appreciate this thing because there's not a whole lot of it? Yeah. And might more of this thing devalue how I feel about it to begin with? And look, there are going to be some games that are awesome because there's a playoff spot on the line. The playoff itself will be incredible. You'll never get pushback from me. If we just view it in isolation, that 12-team playoff is going to be amazing. The feeling that used to go into some of these huge games where it's do or die with the teams that could actually win it all, you are shaving that off of those games. And I don't know how it's going to feel because we've never experienced it before, but we're gonna see it this year. At least a time or two, we'll see it this year.
Okay. I'm with you. You're more staunch on your stance. I'm a little lukewarm. I don't necessarily need to see an expansion, but I wouldn't mind more football games. I get it. I'm with you, man. I get it.
You can join me in the cornfield no matter what.
I'm there. Let's go. Counting down the Saturdays.
Josh Pate, the late kick. We're hoping he joins us in Knoxville this season. Schedule be determined based on how the season goes. But the late kick, I think the growth and success of your show is because of the passion you have for the sport, which I think everybody hears and sees this segment. I think that's why late kick has been so successful. Anything you want to plug out the door with what's coming up this fall?
No, I mean, it's same it's always been. If you want it on YouTube, you can get it there. If you want it on Pod, you can get it there. And man, I can't wait till we actually get to talk about games and not just what we think may happen.
Yep. We're at an expanded conference, right? They're at 16. The expansion conversation is not slowed down. It's just on to the next one as well,
insane.
Just like with the playoff.
We're going to Big Ten next week, and they gave me the list of teams. It looks like a Target receipt. It's insane. That thing goes forever.
Yeah, the grid schedule's crazy. Go check out the show, The Late Kick. You'll enjoy it. Always enjoy talking to you. Thanks, Josh.
Appreciate it, guys.